Hello and welcome to Waylander's Wandering, and with Warhammer 40,000 10th edition being released last Saturday, I think it's time to show you how I get Ultramarines painted, tabletop ready, super fast. So I will be using this Assault Intercessor Sergeant, and I will be painting him up, as I said, as an Ultramarine. So let's go. To begin with, on this miniature, I gave him a prime of Mechanicus Grey and then a dry brush of white. I use Pro Acryl's Bold Titanium White. You can use any white paint that you happen to have handy because it kind of doesn't matter. Leave that to cure so it's properly dry, and then come in with this Ultramarine Blue contrast paint from Citadel. There are equivalent contrast paints from all the usual suppliers, so the Army Painter, Vallejo and Green Stuff World. So you can do whatever you choose to paint your dude. So first things first, I'm going to go over each armour panel separately, working quite quickly because Citadel contrasts have a relatively short drying time. And I'm going to use the technique known as loshing it on to get a nice coverage, and I'll bring you back in once I have done all of him. Now that the blue is on and dried, it's time to move on to the next stage, which is covering all of the black and metallic parts. If you notice, while I was waiting for the blue to dry and off camera, I've gone over the metallic and black parts with Mechanicus Standard Grey, and all the other not blue parts with a white. I use Pro Acryl's Bold Titanium White. You can use whatever you've got to hand. And yes, so let's crack on with this. Let's take Citadel Contrast Black Legion, which is possibly one of the best black paints I've ever used. And straight from the pot, we will come in to things like these expansion joints on your marine armour and fill those in. Be careful not to get any on the blue. And because of the contrast effect, you should get a little of the grey showing through on the highlight and leaving those looking kind of good. There's also the weapon casing, because the Ultramarines have black weapon casings, at least in this iteration they do. Kind of careful, but because the next stage is going to be the metallic, you don't need to be super careful. And hit these black areas. Once all the black is done, I will be hitting the metallic areas, so his bionic arm here, the metallic areas of his gun with a metallic silver. The same on the chainsword, which will be this casing in the black and the mechanical parts in the silver. And then I will come round with the Aquila, the chest eagle, the trim on his shoulder pads, this thing on the back of his wrist here, in gold. And all the time, because we're getting to a stage but I kind of don't want to have to go and fix things up. I'm going to try to only get paint on the bits that we want to. Though, saying that, we are still at a stage where mistakes can be repaired very easily. Just throw a bit of white on or off-white, such as Ultramarine Grey or Corex White, and then you can go over with the blue again. Also, looks like a weapon casing. So I will fly through this as fast as I can. Bring you back when I've done the black and metallic. Now that we have all that black metallics done, I'm looking at it and thinking some of that silvery stuff is a little bit bright. So I will probably go over it with a Vallejo Game Wash black wash, which is 73.201. And because I forgot to tell you before, the silver is Ironbreaker and the gold is Retributor Armor. So first things first, we'll put a drop of black wash on our palette and a drop of water, maybe. So if you're looking at 2 drops of black wash to half a drop of water, and we'll mix those up just like so and run them into these silver areas, covering the entire area because we want it to kind of remain metallic, darken it down a lot. Which is why I'm using the black wash rather than the much more traditional Citadel and Nuln oil. Though if you only have Nuln oil and you don't have the Vallejo washes, it will give you a similar, if less dramatic effect. There we go. And as you can see, where it's dulled it down on his arm and weapon, which is looking much better. So I'll quickly whiz around the other silvery parts with the black wash and bring you back in when it's time to change colours. After letting that black wash dry, I think you'll agree that it looks much more effective now and less, I don't know, in your face, I suppose. Anyway, the next parts are to go over the leather work, which will be his holster, belt and pouches and things, helmet, purity seal you can see there, and his head, as I should say, since I'm not a Scottish person. Anyway, for the skin we'll be using Ultramarines flesh, which I will also thin down a little and maybe go over the chest eagle and such, just to give that a bit of the same texture as the silver metalwork. Gorgrunter fur for the leather. Blood Angels red for the helmet, because Ultramarines are weird like that. For the Purity Seal wax, we'll go for Doomfire magenta, and for the ribbon, we will use Skeleton Horde. And I've also got my Tesseract glow, which I will use for the helmet's eye lenses if I think it's necessary. So, without further messing about, we will start off with your man's face. And we are now seriously getting onto bits where it's a steady hand time. Don't want to mess it up, so we are bracing elbows on the desk, hands together to form a triangle, and coming in and just hitting the areas that we want the Ultramarine flesh on.
It's a bit hot in the UK at the moment, so my working time for these contrast paints has been significantly lowered because they're drying so quickly. So you'll excuse me if I don't talk no more and I just crack on with washing this paint. Oh, one more thing before I shut up. If you watch a regular viewer of my channel, you'll remember that when I was painting my Adeptus Arbites Exaction Squad, I had a little bit of a chat about the level of detail that we see on Games Workshop miniatures now and how we like this level of detail, but I believe it can be slightly off-putting to new painters. Now, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but if you look in Armand's mouth there, he's got teeth, individual teeth. These have got to be something like 1/10 of a millimetre each, and he has got individual teeth. It's absolutely ridiculous amount of detail, and I'm not sure if I'm with it at all. We're going to have a quick second coat because that is drying so quickly we can get away with it. Normally I wouldn't recommend doing this over contrasts quite so quickly. But there we go. Also, right, eyes are really difficult, kids. So what I tend to do is like this, where I will flood the eye socket with the paint or the wash or the contrast paint or whatever I'm using, and give a suggestion of shadow there, so I don't have to paint these eyeballs because they're really fiddly. We fill them in just like that. So that's how we paint this on. I will do the rest and bring you back in when it's time to have a look at an almost finished model. With all those detail bits dried, I think that it's fair to say that if you really want to stop here, base this sergeant to base your marine to match the rest of your army, or base this guy and then base the rest of your army to match this guy, depending on where you are in the process, and he is ready to get on the tabletop and chop up some Tyranids. Or you can do what I'm going to do, which is push it that extra bit further, because why not? So with that in mind, I'm going to edge highlight the armour with Calgar Blue, edge highlight the helmet with Wild Rider Red, ditto the leatherwork with Balog Brown, and the black bits with Mechanicus Standard Grey. I will probably also highlight the metalwork, both the silver and the gold, with Stormhost Silver. Now this is a very time consuming process, which is why I suggest that you leave it until the end. Equally, I will be adding some transfers onto this guy, these ones, the infantry transfers, and if you don't have transfer sheets like this, I highly suggest that you visit my friend Kev's channel, the Hobby Corner. I will leave a link in the pinned comment down below to the Hobby Corner's channel, where he is running a series where he's showing how to freehand a lot of Space Marine heraldry and markings. So go and watch Kev's videos and tell him Waylander sent you. Also, if I forget to leave this in the pinned comment down below, leave me a comment saying, hey, you forgot the pinned comment, Egypt boy, and I will add it. But let's crack on. I'm going to be using this straight from the pot because I'm lazy. But you want to take enough on your brush so there's some on there, but take most of it back off again, and then you go coming in at a sharp angle and just hitting the edges of things like these armor plates. Run your brush over them like so. this will leave a small yet noticeable highlight. And do this the same on all the upward facing areas of all the armor plates, using this 45-degree technique where you can, and where you can't get in with to do the 45-degree technique. Get a little bit of paint on the tip of your brush and come in very gently with as straight a line as possible and just run a small line where you want the highlight to be, moving the model rather than the brush, and leave a highlight like so. Now, as you can see, this lifts the model beyond the ordinary, but it is a very long and involved process, because to go around this entire miniature and do all of this and all the other colours is going to take quite a bit of time. And for the most part, whilst it makes your miniature pop ever so slightly, it's really not that necessary. So I would say it's entirely up to you. I'm going to do it on this just for the sake of completion, but you don't have to. So I'm going to spend the next hour or two doing this all around my miniature, just on the top edges, not so much on the bottoms, because why waste time when you don't have to. And I will bring you in when I have done all of this blue and probably all the rest as well. So after a little bit of time spent highlighting and adding the decals, which you can see here, we have his chapter badge on his left shoulder, Salt badge on the right shoulder, Ultramar badge and company number, which is 8 on this chest escutcheon, and on his knee we added a campaign badge, because why not? And these things tie the model together quite nicely. And seeing as for this series I'm going to be doing all the bases the same way, I will go through it once on camera. So we want Doom Bull Brown to cover the base, then Sterling Battlemire or Sterling Mud plopped on top to give it a bit of texture, a wash on top of that of Agarax Earthshade, and finally a dry brush of Balor Brown to show some dry edges to the mud. After this, if you wish, you can add some weathering powder. I like the Humbra ones. This is sand colour. There are many others available, which we will use a dry brush and dot it about on the tops of the base and on our Marines' lower legs to tie them into the base a little bit more and basically tie the miniature together, which then throw on a couple of static grass tufts, and that will give us a nice finish. So we start off with the Doom Bull. Really takes me a bit of effort to get my gob around that word, and just splosh it on, being kind of careful not to get any on our Marine, though if we only get a little bit on his lower legs, we can always say that he's stood in a muddy puddle. Over that, or while it's still wet, we can, you know, wipe it off. Your choice, my choice, everybody's choice. So, to be honest, my choice is not getting on him in the first place. probably, mind you, it's very hot in the UK at the moment, as I've mentioned. So this doom ball should dry very quickly. And then I will demonstrate throwing the Stirland Mud or Battle Mire on. And I'm sure you all might have seen how we put washers on, and I have a video all about dry brushing which you can find in the Skills to Scale playlist, so I won't show you that on camera either. So once this is on, we take the Games Workshop texture tool, which has a wide spade end and a narrow spade end. Take your mud, close that bottle, take your mud, get a decent blob on the end of your tool and just dab it on. Now I realise that this Doom Ball brown is still a little bit wet, but that should work to our advantage by giving us a better surface to key into. Now we use the fat end to push the Stirland Mud on. Don't be cheap with it. Absolutely pile it on. You'll get better texture that way. Don't get too near his feet. Though again, if you do, you always stood in a muddy puddle. So once you've got the majority covered with the larger spade end, take the smaller end and push the rest of your texture paint in around the feet. Try and get a tiny little bit onto his feet so that he looks like he's part of the scene rather than, you know, balanced on top of it. And push it in up to his feet. Once you've got it to this stage and it's all on, and as you can see it is a little bit textured, but I like to just do this, which will give us a lot more texture and move the dirt around and basically look a lot nicer when it's done. Now this stuff takes an hour or two to dry, so I will leave this to dry and have a cup of tea and a sandwich, and for you it will just be a quick dissolve away. After leaving plenty of time for the Stirland Mud or Stirland Battle Mire, I forget which one I actually use now, to dry, and giving it a quick wash of Agrax Earthshade to get those deeper points standing out and allowing that to dry, we're left with this, which is kind of shiny, but that's good because it means it looks wet, which is great. Now what we want to do is to accentuate that by taking a little bit of this Bale Brown, getting it on a dry brush, and we're going to use it as a dry brush for once rather than the usual technique, because we don't care if it's a little bit chalky, and gently run it across the top of your base, which will give you a nice kind of dried mud effect on the very upper edges of that lovely texture. I mean, it doesn't take long, and once we're done, again, this is a point where you can go, right, that's finished. Paint the edge of the base with a Baden Black or whatever colour you choose. I prefer black edges on my bases, and you're done. Or alternatively, you can go that touch further. Take your weathering powder, this is Humbrol sand, get a little bit on the end of your brush, like so. Tap most of it off, back in. And if you've noticed, we haven't cleaned our brush yet. And moving up the legs in various places and the bottom of your shoes, just brush weathering powder on. And you can put this on as heavy or as light as you wish to kind of represent how long this guy's been, you know, on planet and fighting. So the heavier the weathering, the longer we'll assume that the fight's been going on. Or you can skip the weathering completely and it's just off the dropship. And as you see, this has now added an extra layer of oomph to the miniature, and all this excess stuff on here, just blow it and it's gone. Or you can use it to work it in a bit more. And there we go. That is absolutely lovely. The only thing that I would suggest doing now is taking some of your favourite tufts. I have Army Painter Woodland, Army Painter Frozen, and also Citadel Viridia Velt and Mordian Corpse Grass, and stick a selection of these onto your base, just to finish him off. So there we go. There's a Viridian Velt. A quick Corpse Grass, which we will put close to but not on top of the Velt to give that kind of effect. Next, because why not splurge out, because we've got them, we will put a Frozen Grass, which is a slightly different colour to the Mordian one. Put that next to it, tamper them all down. And finally, we will take a Woodland Tuft, small one. There we go. And stick it next to the others to give it a patch of variegated grass. Again, using our tweezers, we'll push them down a little. And there we go. Once this has had the rim of the base done in Abaddon Black, that will be lovely. So I'll head to this base and give you a few seconds to have a look at him all nicely completed. So there we have it. One Ultramarine Assault Intercessor Sergeant completed using, well, a selection of those paints you can see behind him, and one or two others. I think that with this particular paint scheme you could probably do again the entire box from Leviathan in a week of evenings, so Monday to Friday for your first game on the Saturday. If you bought Leviathan on Saturday, put your miniatures together on Saturday and Sunday, you can have all your Marines painted by Saturday morning and get your first game in. We can have a look from the side there, and yeah, you can see where the effectiveness of the pigment powders is bedding them into the base, and where we've got the decals on to give it some character. And look how lovely and vibrant that helmet is. Nice shiny red helmet on him. And as I said, if you don't have the decals, hit up Kev at the Hobby Corner, link in the pinned comment down below. Again, if I forget, remind me and I'll add the link, who will be doing tutorials on how to freehand your markings on your Space Marines. So that'll be useful. And when he inevitably forgets to start making these videos, nag him lots. He deserves it. If you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, don't forget to leave a like down below, leave a comment and share with your friends. Equally, if you didn't like it, leave a dislike. You know, we're not going to be super upset if you don't like the techniques. If you think you can do better, leave me a video. I also have a Discord server where you can share your work with other people in the community, and a Facebook group which both Waylanders Wandering, and there's a link to both the Facebook and the Discord down below. I have an affiliate link with the amazing Mighty Lancer Games over in Bridlington, so you can get all your hobby supplies, up to and including pretty much everything you can see in that picture. Yeah, I think that's it. I'd see you again soon. I hope you've enjoyed it. I love your faces, and goodbye.